So this is the dress we're going to be working on. It is an Our Generation dress, and as you can see it's quite old. I got it from a charity shop. It came with a couple of other little dresses, but I thought I may be able to do something with it, make it a little bit prettier. So we're going to work on this dress. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it inside out. Okay, now you need a hot iron for this, but what you need to be careful of is that you don't burn the fabric. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a cloth on my ironing board so that I don't spray anything onto the ironing board, and then I will spray the starch onto it. Just a piece of cloth, any piece of cloth will do. You could use a tea towel or anything just to protect your ironing board. And then what you want to do is generously spray it all over with quite a bit of starch, okay, and the other side. There you go, and then you iron that. That'll come out much better. That'll look much better. It'll be nice and crisp. So I'll go away and iron that. Remember, if you do use starch on your iron, you must clean your iron afterwards, because otherwise you're going to get a black mark on it. So I shall iron this, and then I'll come back and show you the next bit. So this is the dress. It's been starched. What I forgot to say was I'd sprayed the starch on the inside, and then I turned it to the right side out before I ironed it on this side, not on the inside, because otherwise you'll get like that, all that starch on your iron. As you can see, it's looking all bit better already just by doing that. And then what I'm going to do next is just to take my scissors and go around and snip off all these long threads which are hanging. After a while you do tend to get some long threads, so that'll neaten it up again, and then I'll do that all the way around. Just check there's no bits and pieces hanging off it. Obviously I washed it before I did all this, and then it'll just come up much prettier. You can see there's bits of thread and that here, so I'll just go around and do all that. So this is going to be Florence's dress. I've gone around with my scissors and I've cut off most of the ends on it, neatened it up and tidied it up. It was washed and starched, and then I found this really pretty ribbon here, and I'm going to put that ribbon all the way around the skirt. So what I've done is I've cut the ribbon so that I've got 1, 2, now that'll be the width of my skirt, like that, okay, and then I've doubled that and added on just a tiny bit more, so I've got a little bit to play with, okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ribbon to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew with using a tacking stitch all the way along. Now you might find it easier just to go around with a needle and thread, and all you want to do, let's see if I can show you. So you're going to get a needle and thread, and what you want to do is just take your needle, you don't need a double thread, you just want a single thread, and you just want to run a row of tacking stitches all the way along the fabric, and you just want small stitches like that, okay, not too big, but you're just going to get all the way along, and you can see that that will gather up, and that will make a really nice edge on your skirt like that, okay. So we're going to do that all the way to the end of there. And we will do that on this long piece which we're doing for the skirt, and we're going to put the same on the sleeves, okay. So you're going to want to do it when you do it so that you've got, if you've got like a pattern like I have, on the very top of the sleeves, just like that, all right. And then the piece for the belt, we don't want to gather in that one, so just leave that one flat. So keeping my needle, so keeping my stitch on a straight stitch, I'm just going to come down here, and what I want to do is I want to move my stitch is right up here. Can you see the different lengths of the stitches? So that's the smallest stitch is going to be this end, and the largest stitch is going to be this end, and we want to do a nice large stitch to do a tacking stitch. So on my machine it's here, yours might be up here or it might be down here somewhere, but you want basically the largest stitch that you can get on your machine. Then we're going to come here, and we want to keep it so that it's at the very top of that ribbon, so you want to keep it running along here, okay. We don't want it sort of coming down into the rest of the fabric, so just going to do a straight stitch right the way along to the end, and this will gather it. you're finding that it's coming off and you're not going quite straight or whatever, first of all you can put your needle in the down position so it stays down when you want to move it, and the second thing to do is just go slower. Okay, you see that's much easier to get that in there, and so there's no rush with doing this. You can keep that in that nice position so that's right on the edge. Try not to get it stuck in between your legs or stand on the end of it, because that will stop you from being able to move it through nice and smoothly. Okay, and you want to keep it underneath this bit of, that's, you can see it's a hard bit on the edge of the ribbon, so you want to just keep it underneath that. And then just keep going like that all the way to the end. When you get to the end, make sure you leave a nice long thread so that you've got something to be able to pull through when you want to gather up your ribbon. So here we go, finished. I got to the end. We don't want to tie a knot and we don't want to do a back stitch in this, okay? What we're going to do is just gently, very gently, because we only really want to put one row of stitches in this, so we don't want to break the thread as we're moving along. If we put 2 rows of stitches in, because it's on the ribbon, it's going to be a bit awkward. So we're just going to pull one piece and then we'll go about halfway and then we'll pull the other piece, okay? And what we're aiming to do, if you sort of looked at your skirt and you put it, say, on your board and you measured it, that would be 9 inches. So you want a piece which is about 19 inches. So as it's gathering along, you can work out that you need it to be gathered along until it gets to about 19 inches. So I've gathered it all the way around, and as I went around with my pins, I made sure that all the gathering, which I was always doing, was so, like, can you sort of see, you can sort of move the gathers along so you've sort of got an even gather going all the way around. And I'm just popping my pins in, hopefully you can see this, just like that all the way. All right, and then when we get here, and I know that that's, and I've definitely got enough fabric, I'm just going to put one more in there. I'm just going to take that very first pin out there. What I want to do here is I want to take this ribbon, and I could have done this beforehand, but I was a bit nervous about how much ribbon I should stitch together to get the right sort of size. Now what you could do is you could just take them like that and stitch those two together. I'm just a bit worried that I might, I'll try that and see what happens. I was a bit worried about pulling the stitches too much. Just prick my needle. Let's get a new needle. So I don't know what actually happened there. I don't know why that's happened. My end of my needle's come off. Just going to move that out of the way, and then I'm just going to take my needle off here and put a clean needle on. I like to put a new needle on, and I didn't do that quite as often as I possibly can, maybe once or 2 times a week. I know some people put a new needle on every time they start a new project, but I like to sort of do it because I do so many little projects. I don't think you need to do it every time. So I don't know if you can see, I've got a screw. I'm just going to try and show how I put the needle on, put a new needle on. Okay, so I've just got some ordinary needles. Alright, there we go. I'm just going to pop it in now. You can see on that needle it's got a straight piece that needs to go at the back, and you need to place it up inside, and you'll find it'll slide right up inside there. Can you see that? Just hold it there while I turn this little screw on the side. Can you see that screw there? And then I'm just going to get my little tool and just tighten it there. Alright, I'll slip my foot back in, and I don't know why that actually happened last time. Let's slip it in. This shouldn't have come out, because I don't know whether that, I think what happened was this screw on this side here must have come loose. So I'm just going to tighten that up. Hang on, that's the wrong way. Tighten it. Yeah, that's it. Tighten it up. So it's clockwise to tighten. That's it. Okay. So that should be better. Now let's just check. I don't know why that's coming down that needle into there. I don't know what's happened. Check what's going on here. For some reason that's not going down into the center. It's going down now. I don't know why that is. Just moving my needle here. This should move my needle backwards and forward, and it's not doing it. Should be there, and it should just come down, up and down, and that's not in the right place. That's for some reason it's wanting to go there. Don't know why it's doing that. Right, what happened was, and I don't know if you can see, it was on somewhere or other. I must have touched this button here. Okay, so, and I'll show you what happens when I, so that's for my straight stitch. I must have touched this button, and if you watch when I touch it, you'll see what happens. So I must have accidentally knocked that, and it's moved over to that side. So I'm just going to put it back straight. I'll leave this in the video because I think this is quite interesting to know why sometimes things go wrong. Alright, so even me, who's been doing it a long time, I didn't know what had happened there, so I've just sort of worked that out. So I shall leave that in so you can see that. So I'm just gonna, as I said, run this straight across and see what happens. And then I'm going to do a back stitch across that just to hold that in place. There we go. Okay. And before I cut it, we'll just check that that is going to lay okay on the, I seem to have lots and lots of thread there on the skirt. Alright. Okay, let's just get rid of that long bit of thread there a minute. Right, okay. So let's pull that back over. And yes, that's going to be pretty good. That's not pulling it too much or anything. So I'm just going to pin that in place, cut that piece off there, cut it reasonably close to those stitches. Right, and then I'm just going to pin that last little piece in place there on the back, like that. One in that, and then another one in that side. There, and then have we got another pin on there now? So all my pins gone. Wow. Okay, so I'm just going to go to that thread, and then I'm going to go all the way around. Now I've put it back into a my ordinary stitch, which is I like to do as a 4. That's the one I use most of the time. I'm going to lift up my needle, making sure that that thread doesn't come out. Put that to the back, okay. And I've got this in the center, okay. So there we go. And then I'm just going to very carefully now. Let's see. Yes, I will have to go like that way. So I'm going to put it in there, slide it in. We'll start it on the back of that dress where that seam is, because I would like it to lay exactly on that seam, and I want it right up close to the edge there. All right. So just take your time. Just be careful because of those pins. We're just going to take our time, do a nice slow stitch. And I'm going to do a back stitch. And then I'm going to come forward and take your pins out as you're going. Alright, and it's just going to go all the way around. If you find that it is coming up above that line of that seam, where that seam was, you can just push it back down again. Okay. And also, can you see here that my piece of ribbon is folded under? You can just push that so that it's actually not folded under. You can get your little pin in there or a quick unpick or something and make sure it's lays flat, alright? And just keep going all the way around. That's it. I'm just going to do that all the way around, and then we'll come back once that's done. So there we go, I went all the way around and I just stitched it all on, and I really like that. That's looking better already. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the belt. Okay, so I'm going to take the belt and I'm just going to take it here. I'm going to run a little tiny piece of it. Now we've got the velcros is here, so what I want to do is fold that over and pop it on there like that, so that I'm not actually, because I could have put it underneath like that and sewn it over, but I would be right on top of the velcro. So I'm going to just pop it on there, and then I'm going to pin it all the way around, and I'm going to pin it so it's sat on that line, so we don't want to see any of that line at all. Right, so I should go around and just pin that in place, and then I will come back. So I've pinned it all the way around, and this is where the velcro is on this side. So I want to pin my ribbon so that it just comes up to the very edge of that. I don't want to put it over the top of the velcro, so I'm going to just do that, and then we're going to go to the machine, and what we want to do is we're going to sew this ribbon on, but I want to make sure all the way along that it's just touching that line there. So I'm going to pop it on. I'm going to do a few stitches on, so there's a few back stitches, and then straight the way across. Just take your time. Make sure that the underneath part of your dress is not going under that needle. Okay. So you need to keep sort of moving that to make sure that doesn't go underneath there, and keeping that on that line, because we don't want a wonky waistband. Right. Get that in place. So just keep going along with that, and I'll follow you. I'll actually do this swim with you so you can see how I'm actually keeping that on there. Just keep lifting that forward. There we go. That's it. Can you see it's started to move up a bit? I want to keep that on there because I want to keep that waistband reasonably straight. Keeping that needle in that down position also helps, because it stops the fabric from moving around too much underneath. There we go. And I'm just doing a little back stitch there. So I like to leave mine open at the top here, because sometimes it just doesn't lay right. So I'm just going to leave it open for now. When you put it on the doll, we can always try it on her and see if it looks alright. At the moment I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to do the sleeves now. With the sleeves, what you're going to do is gather it exactly the same way as you did with the skirt, okay? But what you need to do is when you get near to the end, you want to come across like that, because as you can see we've only got a tiny bit here, so we want to be coming in and doing our ends almost like that. Can you see that? So that our ends need to go across like that. So from here we're going to come in and we're going to go up to the line and then gather across the line. So I'm going to change my setting to number 7 on my machine, but you'll want the biggest stitch you can get, and we're going to do both pieces of ribbon. So I'm going to start it off here. Hopefully you can see that, and I'm going to come up diagonally. Okay, and then I'm just going to run along to the end. Okay, and then I'm just going to go down diagonally again. Okay. Remember, you want to keep a long ends with these, because this is what you're going to use to do the gathering. So you've got that piece there, and you want to do exactly the same on your other piece of sleeve. So again, put it underneath your foot, bring that needle up, and we're just going to pop it there, make sure you've got plenty of ribbon. Pop it onto the end, and we're going to do that diagonal first. And we're just going to run along to the end. And then come down in that diagonal again. That's a bit, probably a couple more stitches. That's better. And just run it down there. Okay. And leave your nice long thread. And you're just going to gather up your ribbon just the same as you did before, just gently pulling that along until you've got it all gathered along like that, into the size that you want it to go onto your arm. So you can put your arm there, and you can measure it where you want it to be. So it's going to come up and around like that. So I need to come in a little bit more, so I'll do a bit more from this side. Just gathering it in. There we go. Alright. So that's roughly about what I want it to be. And I'm just going to take that, and I'm going to pin that onto my arm, around my arm, so it goes that way around. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to take it around like that. So with this one, what I've decided to do is to pin it to the actual very edge of the sleeve like that. And then I folded that piece over, and what I want to do is take that in and around the back like that, and I want to pop my another pin just inside there, so that holds that down. So that piece of fabric is going, that piece of ribbon is going to be held underneath, so you won't see it at all. And we'll do exactly the same on the back. We'll take that piece underneath there, put it underneath the arm like that, and I'll pop another pin in there just to hold it in safely like that. Okay, and then we'll just go around, and we'll just machine all of that all the way around. So what I did is I've done bound on both sides, and I just folded it in the same as I did on the other one. So I'm going to pop it underneath my machine now. Start with this side here. There's some of these threads in the way. I'm just going to pop it under the machine, lift the needle, pop it down. Okay. Now, if you're worried about that end, don't worry too much. What you can do is you can come back in a minute and make sure that's striped and flat on that end. Right, okay, and I'm just going to work my way around on that, keeping that, keeping the ribbon on that very end of that seam. All right. So you want to keep it nice and even if you can. Just make sure that you've got both the underneath seam of the cream and that piece of ribbon are both being stitched through. You don't want any holes. Just realised I didn't move it back to 4, so I'm going to have to go around and do that again, but I'll just carry on for a minute. That's the thing, is trying to always remember to go back after you've done a gathering stitch or whatever and put it back to the right stitch again, and I'd forgotten. just in there, making sure I'm catching that very edge of the fabric there. Just leave that a minute because that's moved out of the way a minute. That's better. Go all the way around to the end, keeping that on that the edge of that seam. Wants to come off. Right, so once you sort of got it on once, you can always go back again, put another row of stitches on if it's not quite stitched all the way around. Right. Just smooth it up a bit. Seems to have a little gather in here. I think it's too much. There you go. Let's get that to the end. Let's try that one out. Not sure how much of that you saw, but there we go. Let's leave that out. Okay, I'm just going to run back around and just neaten that up because it's not very neat and I've missed a bit there. Okay, so I'll just go around again and just check that that's all nice and neat, and then I'll come back. As you can see, I've come off there, so we'll just run around again and just make sure that lays on nicely. So I've just ran that round again and that has gone on much neater now. It was quite difficult with all the pins. I'm just cutting that little bit off inside, so when you do turn it out it'll sit like that, and that looks quite pretty. Alright, so that's laying lovely. Just going to run it around exactly the same way again on this side, getting that laid underneath and nice and flat. Alright, so let's see if we can do that. I was just trying to keep it on that edge and it's being a bit fiddly. I think what it is there's not very much fabric for the needle to go into, because mainly it's all around the pins are just in that tiny seam on the edge, on the very edge. Let's just push that one up a bit. Let's take that pin out. I mean, if we make a mistake here, it doesn't matter too much because we can unpick it. We can do it again. So it's not a problem. I mean, with this type of stuff, it isn't really a problem. If you're using a very fragile, delicate material, something like a chiffon or a silk or something, you're going to get holes and it's going to look wrong. So let's just, take our time. Let's get around here. I'm just going to tell that one out as well. I can't. That's it. And just take it right down to the end. And I'm just going to come back and do a couple of back stitches on there. There we go. Okay, so that's the arm in. Hopefully, that's not bad. Yeah, I'm going to have to go around and do that again. I'm going to have to unpick this piece. I knew that there was something not right. It's just not laying right. So I'll unpick that and then I'll come back and put that back in again. And with that piece there, which I've got here, there at the very end there, I'm just going to fold that in like that. And I'm just going to quickly give that a little stitch there just to hold that in place. Right. And the back stitch. And that should just hold that in place there. Right. Cut away all that thread. And I'm just going to go around to the back where that's sticking up just there on that pink piece. I'm just going to snip that away. Right, that should neaten that up beautifully. And I'm going to have to unpick this here where it just didn't go in. And you see, and I'll just run over again with the machine and get that laying flat. So I'll just take my quick unpick to unpick all the way back from here So you just remember how we do it. We just go into the stitch, pull that stitch up, just do it one stitch at a time. Right, and then you should be able to pull a bit, and then you'll get another piece, and you can pull that one through as well. Catch that one, and you'll be able to pull another bit more. Alright, and just keep going around until you've got it all unpicked. Just that little bit on that shoulder, and then we'll do that little bit on that shoulder again. You'll probably get it done the first time. For some reason it's not working. I think it was the way I had the pins in. So I should put it back in again. Place it back in. Now, if you really can't get this to work and it won't go on and it just won't stay on there in the right position, what you could do is just go round with a piece of cotton and a needle and just tack it in place. And because as I say, I am having a bit of a problem with it, so you could go around and tack it in place just to get that little bit there to sit down, and then once you've done that, you can come along and then machine it. All right, so I should just go and do that a second. So I'm just finishing off here, so I've just got a few stitches in just to tack it, just to hold that into the place there. All right, and that'll just hold it right before I put it onto the machine. Okay, so I just trim that off a minute, that needle. Make sure you put your needle straight away, especially if you've got pets. They can be attracted to the long bits of thread hanging off needles, and they can eat the needle, so you just have to be careful. So I've tacked that in place, and I'm just going to come along and just stitch that down onto there, just exactly as we did before, but without the pins this time. Back stitch and then go forward again. Okay, just come around, make sure everything's laying properly how I want it to lay. Right. So pull it around, make sure that you're getting it laying how you want it. I'm still not quite happy with that. That's it. There we go. Okay, that's laying nicely now. That's much better on the arm. Alright, so I'm just going to snip those ends off, which I seem to have an awful lot of, and that'll be both arms and the skirt and the waistband done. Okay, and that's the little dress, which is looking much better. There we are. Take everything off that. Okay. So it's got all the ends hanging off. And we'll just need to knot this piece at the very end here, which was folded under. Just going to snip that away. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Right, so it's all nice and neat. There's another thread here I'm going to take off, and another thread here. Should be taken off. There we go. There, so there's the little dress. That's looking much pretty. And now here we have our finished dress. So it's really pretty. Hope you like it. Goodbye.